Hey, Mom.
Hi, son.
So there's 1,825 days into the end of this 2024.
1,825 days,
Do you know why that's important?
because that's when we'll be on the moon.
Sometime in that time, yeah.
Yep.
Mike Pence, the VP of the United States, charged NASA with getting people on the moon in 2024. And Jim Bridenstine is committed to making that happen, the NASA administrator. Do you remember the last time we went to the moon?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and I know the answer to this.
Well, I mean, not necessarily the date, but do you remember it happening? Like, how old were you? Were you in elementary, middle school, high school, college?
Yes, all those times.
So not a strong memory then.
No, you know what I remember most is when the Russians went around the moon, and we had this game called Sputnik.
Sputnik.
Are you familiar with that?
No. How's the game go?
Well, we'd throw the ball up, those when the Russians went around the moon before we did.
So it was like keep away or what?
Well, that was like, I guess their craft was called Sputnik, I think, was it?
Yep, the satellite was called Sputnik.
And so we had a game called Sputnik where we threw the ball over the house
Over the house.
and yelled, Sputnik! Yeah.
Y'all didn't go beep, 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 beep like the Sputnik satellite?
We may have.
Y'all did lots of things.
We did lots of things. We had to entertain ourselves.
Were y'all really excited that Sputnik when was there? I mean, like, what was the feeling?
The feeling was that we were getting behind, that they had beat us. And it wasn't a good feeling because back then was the Cold War. And there was a race to do everything first and be better and first and best back then. And since they beat us, it was not a good feeling.
It was not a good feeling. So they got the first satellite into orbit.
They did. As far as I know, they did. That is it. Yeah.
That's consistent with my understanding of it too.
Yeah. So we played Sputnik.
What other things do you remember from that time?
I think then we got on track and got busy, and I think when was NASA started?
When was NASA started? I think like the last part of the 1950s. I think so.
Really?
I think Eisenhower started NASA.
Did he? Okay.
The idea was to have a civilian space program, something that was non-military, and would be done out in the open in public.
Well, I know. Then we got on the stick. We wanted, to be in there in the mix.
Do you know who the first person in space was?
John Glenn.
Wait.
I know this. The first person in space. First American in space or the first person in space?
First person in space.
Russian.
And what's his name?
It was a monkey. They first sent a monkey.
Well, actually, they first sent a dog.
There wasn't a monkey?
Well, the Americans sent monkeys. The Russians sent a dog.
Sent dogs, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. I just knew their monkeys were involved.
But they did send the first person into space, Yuri Gagarin. Yuri?
Yuri? Yes, Yuri.
And that was before Alan Shepard or John Glenn went into space.
That's true. That's true. Yuri beat us.
So, Mom, would you describe...
Is Yuri still living?
No, unfortunately, Yuri got killed in a aircraft accident not too many years after he had gone around the Earth in space. We actually just found out what happened to him, after the Cold War, whenever it got declassified and what have you.
Was he the pilot
Of what?
of the accident?
I think it's kind of complicated. I think I don't remember the details, but that's a good question.
I hate to hear that, really, Yuri.
Do you know the first two people on the moon?
John Glenn?
No, not on the moon. On the moon.
This is one small step for somebody? For man? No. Okay, I forgot what it was. And one big leap for mankind. Something like that.
Right.
Oh, that was Buzz.
Oh, actually, that's Neil Armstrong that said that.
Oh,
He was
Neil!
Yes, of course.
Was Buzz there with him?
Yes. Buzz and Neil were
Buzz
on
was
the.
there, and I was reading in one of your articles that he couldn't, they couldn't, Buzz couldn't be the commander because he was too aggressive.
Oh,
If you read that in an article,
that's
they had to get somebody more laid back, like
More
Neil,
laid back, huh?
like Neil Armstrong. Yes.
So, did you watch the first moon landing on TV?
Yes.
And was it like a big event, or you're just like, my cartoons aren't on?
Oh no, it was everybody shut down to watch it. It was a big thing.
Do you think the next time that we land on the moon would be the same type of thing?
It depends on probably how much press it gets, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there have been a lot of space missions that have gotten no recognition and, you know, made no big deal out of, that most people don't even know about. So I think it really depends on how much importance is given to it.
And, a lot's changed in terms of media since the time that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. I mean, back then, how many stations were there on TV?
3.
And how many are there now?
More than 3.
I know. And if you count all the streaming and on-demand stuff, I mean, you're probably looking at millions of choices.
Yeah, I think they were just 3.
So, I mean, just
NBC, ABC, and I don't know what to see.
And I don't know what to see. And how many newspapers were there?
How many newspaper? Well, there was, I think it was your local paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then where we lived, it was the Houston Post and the Houston Chronicle.
Mm.
That was
I worked for the Houston Post briefly.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
I was my freshman year in high school, and I did the telemarketing to try to sell subscriptions.
How did that work for you?
Well, they closed up.
I take
Got bought by the Chronicle.
I take it you didn't sell enough.
I learned that being a telemarketer is not my thing.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Wow, that's a tough job. All right. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Houston Post people.
Yes, I am too. Okay.
Okay. But, I think having much fewer, viewing options and sources of news, I mean, on one hand, it really limited kind of like the amount of views that could be out there. But on the other hand, at least we were all talking similar about the same thing, We lived in sort of the same world. But now everybody can live in their own bubble.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, one thing I've learned from just these few interviews that I have is us going to the moon in 2024 was big news in my world because I'm reading space sites and, meeting space people and stuff like that. But out of all the people that I've interviewed, maybe only 2 so far knew that we were planning to go to the moon in 2024, which is quite different than probably whenever JFK said, we're going to send a person to the moon in 10 years
Yes.
Do you think you'll watch the moon landing in 2024?
I'm positive I will.
But by choice. Will that be a happy day for
It
you?
would be a very happy day for me and a very scary day.
Scary day?
Yes.
Would you go to the moon?
I would.
You would?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes. Yes. I would love to go to the moon.
Okay, so imagine this. You're on the moon. Thousands of people have gone before you. There's like a facility there. There's a Hilton, what have you. What are some things that you'd want to do?
I would want to see the sights for sure.
Like, whenever you see sights, what are you thinking of?
Well, I've read a little bit about the moon dust.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see some moon dust.
You want to see moon dust?
I want
Okay.
to see moon craters.
Moon craters, okay.
I want to see the far side.
The far side, okay.
Yes.
Not just the cartoon.
No.
No.
No, it's not the far side. What else is there to see on the moon?
How about the place where Neil and Buzz landed?
Is their flag still there?
Well, it's an interesting thing. Each one of the missions that landed on the moon, there were 6 missions that actually successfully landed on the moon, and 2 astronauts with each of those missions, so 12 people have walked on the moon. On every single one, a flag was planted. On the first moon mission, we sort of didn't understand how it would unfold completely. So the flag was planted fairly near to where we landed. So whenever they took off, it fell over and got covered with dust.
Oh no.
Yeah. The other ones we learned to plant farther away, so it wouldn't fall over. But those other ones have been bleached by the sun for nearly 50 years. So they're probably just white pieces of, cloth at this point. But the one that's covered with dust probably looks just like if you dusted it off, you probably could see the flag.
That somebody else brought up the point, are we claiming it for our country? Is that part of the moon going to belong to the U.S. of A., where we plant our flags or not? Will we have to defend it?
This is all the talk in the 1960s? Or you're talking about now?
No, I mean now.
Well, have you heard of the Outer Space Treaty?
I've heard of it.
It's a treaty that was signed
in outer space
by pretty much every country, I think. And basically it says that no government can claim
the moon
ownership of anything off of the Earth. Moons, asteroids, other planets,
and we
other
agreed
moons.
We agreed to this.
We agreed to this.
For now, just like we do with the Indians.
You mean like the Native Americans?
Oh, the Native Americans,
yeah. No need to perpetuate Colombian.
Until we discover gold or something, or until oil, that it's yours until we discover something we want.
Well, but that kind of brings up an interesting point. There's probably, some people say, is this a good thing for the government to be spending money on? And the private industry has plenty of resources. I mean, they spend, hundreds of billions of dollars extracting minerals and resources and things out of the earth and transporting and getting it to market. But, all that's based upon the idea of owning the rights to like a mine or, an area to get the oil out. So, we have enough money in private industry to actually go and get the resources from the moon, probably. But those resources won't be available unless there's a way to recoup that money. And there's no way to really recoup that money if, they can't. If they discover something, somebody else can immediately go and get the same resources, then it takes away the incentive.
Do you think there's oil on the moon?
No, I don't think there's oil on the moon. But we didn't think there was water on the moon before. I guess a big difference, though, is that we kind of understand like the processes by which we have some theories on how the water got on the moon and it's been preserved. And we know how oil was created here on Earth. And we're pretty certain that those same conditions did not exist on the moon. Like, we don't think dinosaurs exist on the moon since there's no atmosphere and what have you. So,
Okay.
But there's lots of other things on the moon.
Like?
Well, people are talking about helium-3 that could be used in like some type of fusion reactor, but we don't have the fusion reactor, and we're not really sure how much helium-3 there is. You have the water on the moon, which
How much? Is it significant?
is supposed to be, billions and billions of tons.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Is there wind?
No atmosphere.
Water.
But it's water that's frozen in like these permanently shadowed craters on the poles. So it's very, very solid
So it's
water.
ice. So it's ice.
It is ice, but it's like ice that's like negative 200 degrees Celsius or.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what is the temperature on the moon?
Well, if you're in the equator and it's daylight, it's probably positive 200 degrees Celsius. And if it's nighttime, it's probably like negative 200 degrees Celsius.
Wow, such difference.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible.
I know, for long periods of time, 14 days for each.
It's amazing the moon can sustain those kind of extreme temperatures, really.
big rock.
It's a big rock.
Big rock.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about space exploration in general? Worthy pursuit, or should be doing something else?
Well, I certainly do have mixed feelings about it, and strictly because there's so much of the Earth that needs to be explored yet. And I feel like, well, there's, and I don't think I'm alone in this.
Okay.
That don't you think we ought to explore the Earth a little more before we go gallivanting off to the moon?
Well, I mean, that's a good argument, right? But I guess the other thing is, why are those things mutually exclusive? Why can't you do both?
You can do both, exactly. But we're not doing the first.
Well, I mean, what are those other 7 billion people in the world? Seems like you should be talking to people not doing anything.
I know. Just driving, there's just so much endless wasteland really here. But someone pointed out the reason that people aren't there is because there isn't water, and it seems like water is the resource that's missing in these areas, these desert areas.
Well, there's way more water in those areas than there are in
the moon.
In the moon.
It seems like there ought to be a way to get water to all these.
Well, I mean, look at Nevada.
Yes.
I mean, like Las Vegas.
Yes.
I mean,
is there water in Las Vegas?
oh.
Okay.
But I mean, a place like in the middle of the desert that's been developed.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But talking about water, just look at the Pacific. I mean, it's like takes up half the globe, pretty much.
It's a big ocean. It is.
There's a lot to explore.
It is. It is.
But it's not just about finding places for people, though. It's also about understanding the universe a little bit more.
True.
If we lined up everybody in exactly one point in the world, they would all have very common ideas on the way the world was structured. And many of those ideas would fall apart the moment that somebody goes off and looks at the world from a different point of view. Just wondering, as we go out into the solar system and we start observing the universe and Earth and the solar system from many, many different points, how that may change kind of our understanding of some things that we take for granted now.
Yes, that certainly is true. But I have also another concern in that quite some time ago, people tried to build their way to heaven.
Oh, the Babel thing.
The Babel thing, and God didn't like it. So I just wonder what God's opinion is about this.
Well, that's a good question. Why don't you tell me? What do you think?
Well, I don't know God's opinion, but I have a suspicion that He may not like for us to go and explore.
Go and to explore. But Jesus told an interesting parable about this landowner or this rich guy who was going away for a visit, out of town, and he decided to give his money to 3 different servants, right? And he gave one of them like 50 coins, and another one like I guess it's like 25 coins. I got the numbers wrong, I'm sure. And another one like 5 coins, right? And he comes back and he's like, "Hey, what'd you do with what I gave you?" And the guy with 50 says, "Hey, I went and invested it. I turned the 50 into 100. And he's like, way to go, good and faithful servant. And then the one the 25, like, what did you do with it? He's like, "Well, I invested in, I doubled and I got 50. And then another one, the last one, had 5. And he's like, "Hey, I knew you were like a really difficult guy, and I was afraid of losing it, so I buried it. I didn't do anything with it. And here's the 5 coins that I gave." And the landowner is really mad, and he says, "Why didn't you do anything with it? You've wasted what I've given you." And he takes the 5 and gives it to the person that was able to double the 50 to 100, and cast them into like jail or out or what have you. And the lesson that I understood that to mean was that, Jesus even says this afterwards, that to him who has much has been given, much is expected. And it's almost like now that we have this capability of truly understanding the universe, are we to bury that and not make benefit of it?
What comes to mind to me is something that Ian, 9-year-old Ian, said. He says, "What does the one thing have to do with the other?"
What does the one thing have to do with the other?
Right.
Which one thing?
One's talking about finance, and you're talking about going to the moon.
No. One's talking about, doing something with what you've been given. And we've been given the capability to explore deeper and further than we ever have before. So I think we're expected to explore deeper and further than we ever have before.
Okay.
Not buying that, huh?
No, I mean that's certainly one theory. It certainly is one theory. It concerns me too. It costs so much to go, and how are they going to get any return on all this investment? I mean, what are they going? The people that are investing so much to go, what is their motivation? Because it looks like.
Well, who's doing the investing? I guess.
Well, I mean, Boeing and.
Oh, Boeing's getting it by milking the government.
Milking the government, not
them,
them, but okay. But some of these independents.
SpaceX.
SpaceX.
Elon Musk wants to build a city on Mars and make humanity multi-planetary, as a way to.
But in the meantime, I mean, how is he getting anything back from his investment?
I had a friend talked, make an interesting point to me. He said, you shouldn't do things just for money's sake. Like there should be some type of good that comes out of it. And the financing is how you make good things happen. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like to me that you don't see any value in making humanity multi-planetary, and that if we can't do it for money's sake, then there's no reason to do it. It's kind of like
well, I'm just concerned about the people that are investing. That I feel like they should, just like the example of the talents that you said, they should get something back for their investment.
Sure, and in the case of SpaceX, they're getting back cheaper way to get things in orbit. Because traditionally rockets have been used one time, thrown away,
right? And
they cost $100 million. So that means whatever you're launching better be worth more than $100 million to get into space.
Right.
SpaceX has actually made it so that the first stage of their rocket actually comes back down and lands. Mm-hmm. They they do a review of it, a little bit of refurbishment, then they refuel it and use it again. Mm-hmm. So they're able to launch the same rocket like 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
Yes, and it's just amazing to me that no one thought of that before, but I'm glad that someone finally did.
Well, a lot of people thought of it before.
Oh, yeah.
But then they said, how are we going to get our money back if we're on cost plus contracts and we only make money based upon our cost? And, if we have a low flight rate, how are we going to get the return for that? Mm-hmm. So, it takes somebody coming along to kind of upset things that's willing to.
What do we do with the spacecraft that's gone, that's not reused? What do we do with all that?
Well, ideally, more recently, we make sure it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere in a way that it gets destroyed, so that it doesn't stay in orbit and potentially runs into satellites or other things. But that's pretty much it. Burns up in the atmosphere is the best answer. The worst answer is it stays in orbit forever until it runs into something and breaks into a lot of pieces, which run into something and breaks into more pieces.
What do we have up there now? Do we even know?
Interesting.
I know we have the car floating around.
We have the car. We have thousands of satellites that are about to, and we're about to be in a position where we're going to triple or quadruple that number over the next few years.
What keeps them from not bumping into each other?
Well, planning, I guess, is the best thing. You try to make it so that they're all at different altitudes, or the timing of their orbits make it so they don't hit each other.
Okay.
So.
And I hope they don't.
Hope they don't.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you think you want to add?
I just think anyone that's interested in the area needs to come to the North
Houston Space,
Space
Society.
meetings on the first Saturday of every month. At
Except
Barbara-
July and December, where it's the
Except
second.
July and December and some other special times.
That's right. Well, it's just, July 4th is usually right around that first Saturday.
Sure,
The library's
sure.
closed. And
And-
December, they always have the
And
open
find
house.
out what's going on and participate and share their input.
Well, thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Okay, well, bye, guys.